Hello everyone and welcome to this week's webinar. We're here at MySwing Professional Studio in Scottsdale, Arizona. MySwing Pro is a 3D motion capture system used for sports, golf, baseball, track and field. We're also brought to you by Medicus Golf and KickX Golf. If you have any questions, just put them here in the sidebar and I'll get to those once we finish. So the last 3 or 4 weeks we've had several people say they'd like for me to talk more about the transition between downswing or backswing and downswing. So we thought that'd be this week's topic. So let's talk about the transition and what it actually is. So when a player starts moving back in backswing, when your body starts moving the other direction, you are in your transition area. For good players, the club is still moving back while the lower body is starting to move forward. So the transition is a movement between back and down. There's also what we call the top of the backswing or the end of the backswing. And the end of the backswing or the top would be where your club starts to change position. Right before it starts to change position, that would be the top. Then it's starting to come down. So the transition usually starts from the ground up. There are some players that use their upper body, but typically it starts from the ground up. So if you can think of it this way, in the backswing, if I start my club and hands, followed by my arms, my shoulders, my hips, that gets me all the way up to the top of the backswing. So now, to change that order, I'm going to start with the lower body. So I'm going to start from the ground with the feet, the knees, the hips, the chest, the shoulders, the arms, and finally the club. So if this is leaving it going back, then the lower is leading it coming down. So when we do these things, there's a couple of drills that you can do to work on this. One of them involves just taking the club back. When you get the club right about here, feel like you're going like this. Feel like your lower body, everything starts shooting forward as you're moving backwards. You can see how that's going to load the club, because I'm starting to go forward with my lower half as my upper half is still moving back. It's hard to do, and you'll probably whiff a few balls, but that'll give you the feel. You can also get the feel of the transition. I'll back up for this one, so I'll make it a little dark. You can also get the feel by just setting up to the golf ball and then bringing your target side foot over to your trail foot. Start the club out here. As the club reaches right about here, step forward. So it is swing, step, swing. So again, I just move this back, step. You can see I'm moving forward prior to the club finishing. Now it gets you a feel of the body moving a little bit before the arms and hands. The key piece in the transition is kind of what your wrist angles are doing though. So if I get, and I'll use a ball for this. So I just grab this basketball, this little basketball, you can see it says Franklin on it. So if I go to the top of the backswing, most people when they start out, their target side wrist is going to be in this attitude, which is what we would call bent, right? In just the center turn. And so when they do that, that makes them instinctively want to go like this to try to close the club face coming down. So even if you take your hands up like this with that bent look, the first thing you want to feel like is that your hands are starting to go clockwise backwards in the downswing. So I get here, feel that clockwise motion back, and then just come right on through with it. So with a golf club, it will look like this. So I'm going to grip down on this so you can see it a little better. So I get to the top, you'll notice where the club face is. Now I'm going to rotate my knuckles, start to feel like they're moving down to the ground. You can see how this flattens the shaft out and shallows the shaft out as well. If I'm up here at this bent position, then I have to come out and you see how steep the shaft is coming on. So even if I'm bent here, I have to rotate this thing back to shallow out the angle. Now, when I shallow this angle out, that's going to allow me to come more from the inside path to the golf ball. And as you do that, what you're going to find is your hand path, that's the path your hands are taking. If you just went down to here, for example, and that the butt of the club is pointing somewhere towards the target line at this point. So from here, as I start moving and my body's going to start turning and raising, you see how the path of my hands are going significantly left, but the club head is still moving to the right. It'll look kind of like this from this point of view. So I'm down here and it's pointing. Now watch as I start rotating around. My whole body right here, once I get down to here, is turning, and my left shoulder is not only moving around, but it's moving up and in as well. So that will take, when you do that, what it'll do is it'll actually tilt your upper body back slightly. So again, the transition. Again, if good players start the lower body before they finish and before the club gets to the top of the backswing. Some players wait till they get to the top, and that's okay too. So if I went to just the top of the backswing, I can start down by just making this little move. I'm making a little move with the lower body, okay, trying to get the hip moving going. So it's basically from my ground up, it's my foot, my knee, and my left hip. So you can see this move going like this. You don't want to get too much this way. You can slide if you're somebody that's coming a little bit out to in, or what they call over the top or outward to inward. You can also feel that you have a little bit of slide towards right field, which will lay the club back as well. But primarily what you want to do is you want to feel like you get to the top, you're going to try to start it down together, let's say. You get the top started together, you're going to feel the lower body. And again, you almost feel like you're hanging back a little bit because that gives you the separation between the knees. Everybody talks about the Sam Snead squat. Well, there it is. Because he's making the separation move, but he's still got pressure in this back hip. If you get too much pressure going forward, you won't have enough room to turn. Because you really can't move lateral and rotationally at the same time. You can, but just a small piece of it, but not a lot of it. You need more rotation, right, and less lateral. So you have to kind of time those two together. So when you're here, start that down. Again, it's not over here, right? From down line, it would look like this. You see where that club shaft's way up here. Versus this. You can see how the shaft is shallow. Now the big difference there is all I did is I felt like I set a little bit on my trail side while I'm still separating from the lower body this direction. So the transition, again, just do a couple of drills. You can do the step drill like we were doing. Start the club out, step, swing. And when you step, make sure you're stepping into your normal width of stance. And when you do that also, you're not moving your entire body forward, just making a step forward. Much like baseball players, when they're waiting for a pitch, they make a step, but they don't step their body forward. They step, rotate, and fire. So that's kind of what the transition is all about. Now we've got a bunch of questions, so let me get up and start answering those for you. All right, our first question. And this is Dave. For years now, I have been focused on starting the downswing by first making a lateral shift to the lead foot, followed by a turn. This has worked well with irons, but not so well with shots requiring more of a sweeping action. Lately, my downswing trigger has been a backward turn of the left armpit to hit all the shots. And the drives have never been more consistent, and the correct amount of weight shift just happens. Is the teaching of a lateral shift of the lower body leading the downswing being overdone? We just kind of covered that a little bit. When you get to the top, again, what you want to feel is you're starting to move this shift. If you start coming down, you want to feel more pressure more toward the heel, and I'll show you why here. So if I get up here and I start moving towards the heel, you can see how the shaft flattens right there. If I get up here and I move the pressure towards my toe, you can see I move forward and the shaft's a little bit steeper. So it is again, once you get here, you're going to feel this little bit of turn here. Okay, you're moving the pressure a little bit left, but you're keeping some pressure on the back foot, and you're loading more pressure into the left heel, especially coming into impact. So yes, if you get too much lateral, then what happens is it's going to shift the path, which the club head's taking. If I get too lateral, the shift of the path is going to be too much out to the right. That's going to cause you to have to try to over-rotate your hands to get the club face close to that path. Otherwise, you just hit big pushes. All right, next question. Thanks for that question, Dave. Next question is by Steve. How do I start my backswing? What is the role of the right hip? I'm a right-handed golfer. Okay, so we opened it up with a sequence of events. So again, for most golfers, what you see on the PGA Tour is you see most all of them have a 90-degree shoulder turn and their club's right here, which means from there they have to lift. So I'll do it from this angle. They have a 90-degree shoulder turn, then they have to lift. Right? And most players overdo that anyway. So again, if we start, and I'll do it from the face on. If I start with the club head in my hands, followed by my shoulders in the midsection, followed by my hip, I still get the 90% turn, or 90-degree turn. It just allows me to control the club a little bit easier versus trying to turn everything. And when you turn everything, what usually happens for amateurs is the club gets way inside, way underneath what we call here, and then they'll either lift cross line this way, or they'll just stop their backswing right here. So I would suggest, remember, just reverse order. The downswing is feet, knees, hips, upper body, arms, club, right? From the backswing, I want to go hands, club, arms, pelvis, and shoulders, right? So it's hands, arms, club, shoulders, sometimes shoulders, and then your pelvis or your hips. Don't be afraid to let that foot come off the ground either, so you can get a complete turn. If I keep my foot down, that's as far as I can turn. If I release the pressure in that foot, I got a lot more turn in my shoulders doing it. So again, it's just the opposite of the downswing. So we want to get the club going first, followed by the shoulders, followed by the hips. Now we're going to go hips, chest, shoulders, arms, hand, club, and downswing. All right, next question. Now this question is from Mitch. I play a short, difficult, hilly course with some friends on Sunday. The course is entirely Poana, has me baffled. Tried everything. No problems on other grasses. Any tips? Well, I don't know what your question is other than you play on Poana grass. You know, Poana on the fairway is not much different than anything else. It's in the fairway. You still have to hit the ball first before you hit the turf. The greens can be a little bit different. They can be a little bit more greeny. They can be a little slower. But you have to remember the PGA Tour plays tour events on the West Coast on Poana. Then they go to the East Coast down in Florida, and they play on Bermuda. Then they play on bent grass. So the different grasses, the biggest effect is going to be on the greens. So if you have, if you're playing on Poana greens, you just got to, if that's a course you play all the time, you've got to get used to how that course is played and how the club's interacting with the ground. Again, when we're talking about hitting a normal shot, I'm going to back up a little bit. I know it's going to be dark here. I'm talking about hitting a normal shot. I still want to be able to hit the ball first, right, and not club first, or not ground first. When you get into the Poana rough, it's going to be thick, so don't try to advance the ball. Just try to use a more lofted club, okay, and get it out of that stuff where you can have a different shot. You can hit shots out of different rough. Let's say a 7-iron, for example, out of bent grass, but you'd have to hit a different club, maybe out of Bermuda or out of Poana. And again, the thicker the grass is, the more it wants to grab the club. So you want to make sure it's not grabbing your club and slowing it down. So just base it on your ball position. You have to have if you need a steeper angle of attack, move the ball back so you can hit down on it. All right? Next question. All right, this one, well, we got a bunch of questions today. This one is Tom. What is the best way to develop a consistent swing? Well, so here's the thing about golf. It is consistently inconsistent. So I've had players come and say, I have 100 different golf swings. Well, if I video 100 of their different golf swings, they all look exactly the same. What's different is how they are contacting the golf ball. You know, they'll sometimes hit it in the middle of the face, sometimes heel, sometimes toe. Sometimes your path is steeper, Sometimes it's more shallow. Typically, if they have a shallow path, they'll always have a shallow path, even in that 100 swings. They have a steeper path. Every one of those swings will have a steeper path, but it's the degree of steepness or shallowness that changes. So the biggest thing about consistency is it's not developing a consistent swing, it's developing consistent contact. If you have to swing, if your swing looks like this, but you're hitting in the middle of the face and the ball's doing what you want it to do, then that's fine. So focus more on the three pieces of the club face, the club head, and the club shaft. And focus on those from address to the top, all the way up to the finish. And if you can do that, then you'll be much more consistent. All right, next question. All right, this question is from Victor. I can't pause at the top. What is a better drill to practice? Well, is there a reason why you want to pause at the top, Victor? The pause would actually automatically happen if your downswing sequence was correct. So if I was over here, my downswing sequence is lower body first, you're going to feel that little pause. To go up there and just stop and then swing, there's been a couple of players that have done that. I mean, Bob Murphy's did that and had a pretty good career, especially on the Champions Tour. But the pause, again, the pause is simply to change the direction. So I wouldn't work on completely pausing at the top and then starting down. So again, do small drills. Take the club back, take it forward without the pause. Just do short shots. Boom, boom. Now add a little more length to it. Boom, boom. And then finally, all the way up. So a drill that I did for the Golf Channel last year was called the Wild Bill Melhorn drill. So what he did, he'd swing back and pick up his left foot, put the foot down, swing the club and pick up the right foot. So it looked like this. Pick the left foot up on the backswing, put it down, swing the right foot. You just keep picking it up, putting it down, and keep the club in motion. That not only helps you keep the club moving, but it also allows you to feel what it's like to have your pressure moving from right to left or from forward to backward. All right, next question. All right, this question is by Colson. What should one key thought be going from backswing to downswing? Depends on what you're trying to do. Your key thought and my key thought could be different. If you're someone that has trouble with getting the club face relatively square at the bottom, then your key thought might be, like we talked about earlier, is rotating the shaft backwards. All right, so this would be clockwise, so that you can hit it more from the inside. That might be your thought. If your key thought, if you're coming out over the top this way and swinging outward to inward, your downswing key would be, again, let's go through the transition, flatten the shaft out so you can swing more to the right. If you're swinging more to the right, okay, if you're too much to the right, your downswing feel might be that you're swinging a little more on top and left through the ball. So depending on what it is you're working on, it's going to depend on what that one key thought should be. All right, next question. All right, this one is from Jeffrey. What's the first move you think of in the takeaway? Again, Jeffrey, the takeaway is different for everybody. If you look at Gary Player, he kicked his knee in, then he started. Okay, players have different pre-shots, they call it, different swing triggers. And you got to find the trigger that works for you. And again, that depends on what you're trying to do. Remember, the backswing sequence is we want to get this all moving first, followed by the hips. We don't want to turn my hips, turn my shoulders, and then lift the club. We're going to get the club going so that the shoulders can go, and then the hips can go. That's what we're trying to get done. All right, next question. Man, this is a lot of questions here. Mustafa, I have a tendency of drawing or hooking my short irons. What can I do to correct that? Okay, so if you are hooking your irons, first of all, they're starting to the right of the target, starting straight at it, or starting left of it. So that's going to tell you the face angle. Remember, if you're drawing it, that means that the path of the club, if you're a right-handed golfer, that means the path of the club head, is traveling to the right of where the club face is pointed. That's going to be the draw. All right, so if you're overdrawing it, and again, depending on where the ball is starting, if you are overdrawing it, that just means the angle between your club head and your club face is too great. I'll hold that up so you can see it. We have to narrow that angle. So you want to make that discrepancy between the face and the path smaller. The larger that is, the more it's going to draw. Now, if the ball is starting straight and drawing, then you know your path is to the right of your face, but your face is pointed at the target line when you hit it. If your ball is starting to the left and drawing, your path is still to the right of the face, but your face is pointed left of the target when you hit it. So to hit effective draws, your ball has to start to the right of where you want the ball to end up and curve back to it. So, I mean, at impact, your face should be pointing to the right of where you want it to end up, and your swing path would be farther to the right of that. All right, next question.
All right, this is from Tom. How do you know how much to compensate for a crosswind?
Well, you have to, if you've played enough golf, you'll figure out it'll feel like it's either 5 miles, 10 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour, whatever it is. Some players like to work the ball back into the wind, so they'll try. So let's say the wind's blowing really hard from right to left. That'll push the ball a little bit to the left. So some players will try to hit more of a cut into that wind, and the wind holds it up, holds it straight. I would suggest riding the wind. Let the wind go ahead and push your ball. So if it's blowing right to left, just aim farther to the right and let the wind blow it back towards the target. And again, you just have to experiment. They actually make some apps right now that you can use. You can just hold this thing up and it'll tell you how hard the wind's blowing. That way you'll start getting a sense of what that mile per hour is. All right, next question.
All right, and this one is from Bill. How to start the downswing and finish the swing?
Okay, so again, at the beginning of this, Bill, we talked about the downswing. Starts from the ground up. So once I get up here, I want to feel like my lower body's going, then my chest is going, shoulders, arms, hands, club finally is the last thing to the golf ball. Okay? I do not want to move the club first, okay? Unless I'm somebody that is like this. Then we might give you a drill. It feels like this, and now swing the arms, let the body chase it. That might be a drill. Not necessarily what happens, but that drill sometimes will get you to use the right sequence. All right, next question.
All right, this is from Mark. What's more important for consistent shots? I'm a 19 handicap and have lots of pars and lots of lost golf balls. Well,
again, the consistency of the shots, Mark, is you have to be able to consistently hit the middle of the club face. And you have to consistently control where that ball is starting and how much it's curving. You know, if you're really good from 100 yards and in, that 19 handicap can probably drop to a 12 or 13, maybe even a 10. But remember, the consistency is middle of the club face strike, right? Starting the ball either right or left of the target with a proper amount of curve that gets it back to target. Hitting a straight shot is the hardest thing to do in golf. So figure out which shot is easiest for you to hit. Is it a fade or is it a draw? And if it's a fade, then you play that fade every time. If it's turning into a slice, that just, again, means that the difference between your club face and your club path is too great. So if you're drawing the ball, you know that the path your club head is taking is always farther out to the right for a right-handed golfer than your club face is. If you're fading it, your path is always farther left than what the club face is if you're a right-handed player. So I would work on that, try to minimize the amount of the curve, right? Again, whether you're fading it or drawing it, and work on hitting this thing in the middle of the club face. I would suggest taking a driver and get some Dr. Scholl's foot spray, spray the driver face, set up, hit a shot, and see where you're striking it. See if you're striking it in the middle of the face, or you're striking it on the toes, the heel, low, high. Keep doing that until you can hit it in the center of the face every time, and that'll translate over into drivers. All right, next question.
All right, this is from Marshall. What is the proper way to shift your weight?
Okay, so weight shift is kind of a misnomer. Weight and pressure are not the same. They're only the same as you're standing statically. Once you're moving, it is pressure that's moving. A lot of articles are written about weight. So if I'm moving, let's just say, and I'll just use your terminology, weight. All right, so in the backswing, I'm moving my weight to my trail leg, and then I'm starting it to my front leg in the downswing. I'm putting more of it on my front leg at impact, and I'm finishing with the most on my front foot at finish. So again, the drill where we were marching, picking the foot up, putting it down, hitting golf balls, that's how you get that feel. You get the feel by doing that drill. All right, and next question.
All right, and this one is by John. What is an everyday or other sports-related motion that can give us a feeling of a correct
transition? Again, to go back to the baseball analogy, so if you're waiting for a pitch, you step, okay, well there's a transition move, rotate, swing. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to put my feet together. I'm going to swing to the top, step, rotate, boom. So there's your transition move. All right, next question.
All right, and this one is by Lynn. Please discuss the role of the forearm rotation too. Too much, too little, in setting the wrist in the backswing and releasing in the downswing. So, forearm rotation. So this is rotating my forearms. You can see how the club is way back in here in the face or to the sky. Forearms do rotate, they just rotate later. If I do it later, now the club stays pretty much on the angle I want it to stay on. If I rotate it too soon, it gets behind me this way. If my body is out of sync in the downswing, then I have to roll them over this way. You don't have to do any of that to hit a draw. If I get up here and I come down and the club face is tilted downward like this, let me move it out so you can see it. All right, so my arms wouldn't be out there, they'd be here. All right, so if I have the club face tilted downward here, my path is going to the right. My club face is looking just inside that path. This ball is going to start slightly right for the right-handed player, and it's going to draw back, all without having to do that. But the key is the wrist angles. So again, I'm going to move up here close so you can see the wrist angle. So if I'm up here at the top, all right, and my wrist looks like this, and I swing down, you can see where that club face is. If I'm up here and I go like this, now you can see where the club face, you can actually see how the club face is farther behind me at that point. Now as I get down into here, you can see this lead wrist, not this, this. Now that lead wrist is what we would call arch at this point. And from there, all I'm going to do is just continue turning in on the golf ball. You can still see how the lead wrist is here, and then I'll lose some of it on the target side of the ball. So again, it's all in your wrist angles. All right, another question. All right, this is from Steve. Hitting a driver, I struggle swinging out at the ball. Any drills for baseball players who seem to come around the body too fast? Okay, so Steve, baseball players are actually pretty good at a couple of things. One, swinging out, and two, trailing the head of the club behind the hands. And sometimes they get that done too much. So baseball players also have a tendency to be too open with the hips coming down. So now all they can do is fire their arms. So what I would suggest is I would take and put a driveway marker. I'll just use this one. It's not really long enough to serve its purpose. I would take one of these and put it through your belt line
so that it's sticking out a little bit on this side. So I'll do it from this side so you can see it. So if I got up to the top and now my hips spun out too quick, you can see how I get trapped back here behind this. I want my hips to move, I just don't want them to spin out. I want them to turn through the ball. So using this little piece, that'll stop you from getting your hips going too quickly and your arms getting left behind. When your arms get left behind, now you're having to fire it out to the right. All right, last question.
And this is from Bob. How do I generate lag in the transition?
Well, again, Bob, there's all kinds of different lag. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. You have your pivot lag, which is what your body's doing. You have club head lag, then you have what we call power source lag. So again, as you can see, if I get up here and I start my move back towards the golf ball, before I finish the backswing, you can see how that angle just got a little bit more acute. Okay, so if I just go like this, now watch. So all I'm doing is moving this, and this angle is starting to set more this way. So it's all, again, in your transition part. So if I'm here, right, I want to make sure that I start this transition properly. Boom, and then boom. Okay. So from your angle, you can get right into it right there. So again, the transition is instrumental in a bunch of things. Getting more pressure forward, the right sequencing of your body, arms, and hands, the wrist angles for your club face control. All that is part of sequencing the backswing to the downswing transition. So we got lots of great questions today. I want to thank you guys for that. We'll be off the next 2 weeks minimum, having this hip redone. Hopefully it'll be okay, and in 3 weeks we'll be back. But thanks again for watching. Send in your questions. We'll have this up later today for those of you that missed it. And again, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.